All right, welcome to another exciting episode of Meal Prepping with Lauren and Shireen. We are happy to be together today. And Lauren and I are both getting started with gut protocol this week, so that's what we're focusing on. My husband and I actually started today, so we just jumped the gun by a day, and just so that we could also finish by a day because we're heading to Europe at the end of the month. So yeah, I spent yesterday meal planning, so I can share some of that with you, as we get talking here. But we'll start off with Lauren showing us first about gluten-free bread and how to go about that.
Yeah. So I don't know about you, but bread is like, I love bread. So I do feel like this is going to be so beneficial because I feel like gluten is one of my high sensitivities, I'll be honest. And bread is one of my go-tos. It's always been like one that I'll have like a slice of whole grain bread with some peanut butter in my shake on my way out the door to work. It's a go-to for me. Like if I need something, which is so funny because like if I need something quick to eat because I feel like I'm, like kind of shaky or I feel like I'm just absolutely starving, I tend to go to bread, which, side note, means that you're deficient in other ways because you're looking for those starches and the crackers and all that kind of stuff, that quick carb to kind of fill you up. So I think it's very important to keep that in mind. And I know that because that's my go-to, and I will eat it knowing that it's my go-to, that I probably need to get some water in me first, or I needed to adjust it. So I thought, for me, I'm going to go ahead and make this gluten-free bread because I wanted to see how it is. I want to try it, and I really want to not necessarily cut it out completely. So this gluten-free bread, it says it serves 10, so it's a slice per serving, and it takes 5 to 10 minutes to prep and then 30 minutes to rise. So I figured we'll go ahead and we'll get it prepped up, ready to go, and then we'll let it rise while we do some other stuff. So the first thing we do is preheat the oven at 400 and lightly coat a loaf pan with a spray, and then we'll set that aside. This is actually a pretty easy ingredient type bread, which I was really surprised. You just need some warm water, some apple cider vinegar. I shop at Aldi. It's like a Trader Joe's but it's the apple cider vinegar, and it has the one with the mother in it. Bragg's is the same. It's generic for Bragg's. But you can tell because it has some settlement at the bottom of it. I don't necessarily know what the mother does, but do you know, Shireen?
I actually didn't know it was called the mother.
Yeah, it's like apple cider vinegar, and it says 5% acidity with the mother. And that's what I was taught. The Bragg's is when you get the apple cider vinegar, get the one with the mother. And I was always like, I wonder what that is. But that's what I always look for. And I always assume the mother is the stuff that sits at the bottom of it because you have to shake it up. So if anyone knows, I'd be really appreciative to know what that is.
Somebody Google that while we're looking up.
I think that's a great idea.
If any of you have questions while we're chatting, please just unmute yourself or type your question in the chat box, either way. So
yeah. So I use a extra virgin olive oil spray. That's what I use on my hands and stuff like that, and when I'm cooking. Sometimes I use an avocado spray. So that's one of the things that I utilize there. So we're gonna let that sit. And then what we're gonna do in my bowl is I'm gonna combine 2 eggs, and I'm gonna slightly beat them. And then I'm gonna combine warm water and vinegar in a medium bowl, and I'm gonna whisk to blend it, and I'm gonna set that aside. So that's the first thing I'm gonna do. I wanna make sure I'm reading this right, you guys, so I apologize. I was really hoping I'd have a little bit more of this pulled together, but like Shireen said, we're just getting back. We got back late last night. So today I've been just trying to do all the things to get my week ready.
yeah, Okay, Julie says the mother is a ball of living enzymes that floats in the apple cider vinegar. Most apple cider vinegar have been pasteurized and filtered, which removes this part.
Well,
So
that makes sense.
obviously better for your digestion if it's still got the enzymes in it.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. Absolutely.
that's really interesting.
Okay. That really is interesting. I guess like that the sun is terrible. I gotta close my blinds. Hold on one second.
And somebody in my message thread, Kat, told me or said that she just made this bread today. So she'll also have some tips to go along with this, because apparently it didn't turn out as well as she was hoping the first time. She made it a second batch that turned out better. So. All right, and well, well, go ahead. Yeah.
I have a question.
Yes.
So I may have missed something, but are we just making this bread because it's cool to make your own gluten-free bread for this 4-week thing? Is it better than store-bought breads, or what's
That's a good
behind
question.
it?
That is.
Go ahead, Shireen.
What I read was, I mean, Autumn recommended, she said, yeah, there's lots of gluten-free breads out there that you can buy. But a lot of them have different like potato starch, tapioca starches in them that aren't as good for you. And so that's why she recommended using this recipe to make your own bread. So.
Oh, that's a good answer. Okay, I didn't know that. I've
Yeah.
never delved into the gluten-free thing, so.
Yeah, I mean, the gluten-free, there's a lot of gluten-free alternative flours out there. And some are better, like have more dense nutritive value than others. So,
Okay.
yeah, so that's why, I mean, that was Autumn's answer to this anyway.
Okay, thanks.
There's lots of things out there that give us high sensitivity, and she believes gluten is one of them. So he's trying to pull things out, and I'm sorry if you just said this, Shireen, but trying to pull things out of our normal diet. And then once you get through them, you'll slowly start to add things back in to see what is actually affecting your body. So gluten may not have any effect on you, but it may on me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and so that's, and I think Autumn too was just like, well, you don't necessarily have to go without bread completely, which is why, she said, try making a sandwich with this instead, Valerie, the recipe is it in Fixate? Is that where it is?
This one was in Fixate, and it's also, she has it under the recipes of the 4-week gut protocol too, but it is a Fixate recipe.
So it'll be on BOD under the Fixate tab. A lot of the recipes that, like some of the ones she used in her meal planning and or her menus, her sample menus, are Fixate recipes. And let's see. So like this one, I printed this one off. This is and this is a gut protocol recipe, but like on the bottom, it tells you portion fix or the 4-week gut protocol, how you would count the different containers. So, it's nice that it has it all laid out for you. Cynthia asked, what does gluten-free mean? So all wheat flours and some other flours contain a part of the berry, the wheat berry. It has a higher protein in it that's called gluten. And it's just part of the flour that makes, bread so amazing. And a lot of times higher gluten flours are used in baking bread because it, makes it rise better. It's also, like I said, got more protein in it. So, but it's also the hardest for a lot of bodies to digest and process, and really, absorb the nutrients from. So people with celiac, my sister has celiac, it's like poison to her when she eats it, it just upsets her stomach so much. So you can have a disease like celiac, you can have just an intolerance for it or a sensitivity for it. That's, there's different degrees of this, and that's why the gut protocol is going to help us figure out how sensitive are you to gluten and dairy and corn and highly processed soy and things like that. So
These are good questions, you guys.
yeah, any other questions, please feel free to ask away.
I love it because it helps keep us on our game too.
Yeah, for sure. We don't know the answer, we'll go research it. So.
Figure it out. Okay, so now I'm adding in, I'm doing in a separate little food processor. I did two cups of gluten-free flour, and I did
This is what I bought at the store yesterday, just at
yeah,
like Kroger, King Supers,
that, and that's what I was gonna say, that red mill.
That's right now.
Really good. And I put my grocery order in today and they subbed out my red mill. Walmart had a substitute, and I have to probably go through and make sure, but it was gluten-free. But I looked at the what's in it. I feel like you have to sometimes still watch your ingredients, but that's what they subbed out for me. And I must not have seen that because I would have maybe tried to run to the local store that I had. But I try to get this Bob's Red Mill stuff. And they also have gluten-free oats, which is what I got too for my oatmeal.
Yeah. And that xanthan gum, do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, so this xanthan gum, it's great for baking. It's a thickener. So I already had it because I sometimes use it in my shake to kind of thicken it up, almost like an ice cream froyo type consistency. But I will say this, if you have dogs, keep this up high because xanthan gum is very, very deadly to them. And you only need a little bit to go a long way. So is there anything else you want to add to that?
No, it's just that it's like a thickener that will help. So whereas like a lot of gluten-free bread that you make can be kind of dense and heavy, so that will just help give it a little more lift, which is why it's in there. And Shannon said she was having a hard time finding it at her very small town store yesterday. I actually ordered it off of Amazon, but I think I saw it at our Kroger yesterday. So it was all, we have like a, that's where this was. It was like a gluten-free section of alternative flours and other things. So I saw that same Bob's Red Mill xanthan gum.
Yeah, and I know I've gotten it off of Amazon before too, but you know what I found maybe a couple months ago, because I was looking for something random at Target and I ran into a couple things. If you have a Target that's got groceries in it, and mine isn't like a superstore, like it has just a few aisles. I mean, it's not bad, but it's not where I get my groceries. It's like where I go and I pick up a few things that maybe I need toothpaste and shampoo, but I also need peanut butter and, salad dressing. They have this Bob's Red Mill. So, and I noticed they had this and the oats before, which is where I picked them both up before too. So that might help too.
Yeah.
Okay, so while we're going to do this, I'm going to put myself on mute because we're going to, I'm going to process this for about 5 minutes. And then I'm going to add the flour mixture to my egg mixture. And then I'm going to go ahead and put it in my pan and I'm going to cover it and let it sit for 30 minutes.
Okay, perfect. And then I will start showing you what I'm doing. So I'm prepping some breakfast. So this was a gut protocol recipe as well, banana pear muffins. So I have in here a chopped up pear and a banana. And I'm going to add some maple syrup, coconut milk, and coconut oil, and then blend it up. And it also uses gluten-free flour. And it even says on here, says gluten-free all-purpose flour, preferably Bob's red mill. So, you know, that just shows her preference for, you know, it just shows her preference for, let me replace the pin here, for Bob's red mill, just knowing that that's a good quality flour. And as Valerie said too, she said GMOs play a part in gluten and actually in a lot of the products that, you know, Autumn's recommending that we try and stick to avoid GMOs and any other kind of altered foods. So I have some melted coconut oil. I'm going to add in here. And I just like to prep breakfast because I like my mornings to go quicker. I mean, I have a morning routine I like to do, and sometimes I just get stuck in, you know, doing meal prep, and I don't know, sometimes it just takes way longer than I want it to. So this just helps to make it a little easier. So using pure maple syrup for the sweetener. And I mean, since this is a gut protocol recipe, there's a half a cup in here, but it makes 12 muffins. So I'm assuming that, you know, she said this is an okay breakfast. So, so that it fits within everything. All right. And then a half a cup of coconut milk. One of the other things, so on my meal plan this week, I have this for breakfast, and I also have steel cut oats, because we really like steel cut oats. So another tip for prepping steel cut oats is to do them all ahead of time. And then you can freeze them. You can portion them out into a muffin tin. This fits. I take my yellow container and I scoop out the oatmeal and just freeze it in the muffin tin until it's solid. And then I'll take them out and put them in a Ziploc and put them in the freezer. So it's really easy. And then it just takes a couple of minutes in the microwave and it's ready to go.
That's a great idea. I love that idea.
Yeah, it works pretty slick. So, okay. All right, I'm going to blend this up. So now I'm going to put me on mute.
Okay, so I've got the bread all blended together here. I got to be honest, I've never made this before, so we'll see how it turns out. I'd be curious what Shireen's, what her friend did, and if she learned any tips or tricks. I've never made bread before. I've tried to make cloud bread. I did not like it. But I also don't think I gave it enough of a chance. It did not look right, and it just did not look good. It didn't taste good to me. So we kind of threw it out and I never tried it again, but I might try it again. Alana has a great, or what looks to be a great cloud bread recipe. And I know that I tried it when we were doing 80-day obsession. So I don't know, maybe I didn't give it enough try. So this is what it looks like. So I'm going to put a towel over it and let it sit for 30 minutes.
Okay. All right, I blended this up and now I add in the flour and baking powder and salt, vanilla extract, all of that, and then blend that up and bake it. So we'll just see how this goes. So, so are you going to do blueberries next, Lauren?
So I'm gonna do blueberries. So one of the things Autumn talked about is fermented blueberries. Having some sort of fermented item 3 days a week. And she basically in the video tells you to put your big girl panties on and just do it. So I'm not gonna lie. Okay, so I was looking through it and it was like kimchi, which I was like, I don't even know what that is. Was one of them that kombucha or that?
Kombucha, yeah, kombucha, yeah.
Yeah, I don't even know what that is either. Again, that scared me. Have you ever had that before, Shireen?
I have, and it's kind of carbonated. It's fermented black. I think it's fermented black tea, basically. I mean, I just tasted it just to see what it was like, and it didn't taste bad. So I assume it's like drinking on tea. So
Okay.
but it's also got all the good fermented stuff for you.
Yeah.
So if you're a tea drinker, then kombucha is a good alternative.
Yeah, I feel like maybe I could try that.
Yeah.
I could try that.
But yeah, kimchi, sauerkraut. We had sauerkraut today on our menu. But
What did you do? Just have a side of it?
yeah, well, we also had, so I made hamburgers yesterday, which, you know, a recipe that I have from the Run Fast Eat Slow cookbook. Is that right? Yeah. And I looked at the recipe and was like, oh, this fits right in. So it was using grass-fed beef, and it just had some spices and stuff mixed in with it with an egg, and they're our favorite hamburgers. So we cooked those up yesterday and we had 2 leftovers. So we had those for lunch today, and we just ate them plain without, you know, a bun or anything.
Yeah.
And sauerkraut on the side, and it was delicious.
Oh,
So
okay.
like with a
Now-
kind of thing.
Did you just buy a jar of sauerkraut?
I bought a bag, which I've now thrown away, but the better sauerkraut you'll find probably in the deli section,
Okay.
and it's usually in bags.
Okay.
I did go to Whole Foods yesterday. Let me show you what I found there. If you have like a natural food store like Whole Foods or Sprouts or something, or Fresh Time, if you guys have those out there, Lauren. So this is actually a combination. I think it's probably backwards for you, but it says kimchi style kraut. So this is like a combination of
Double.
kimchi and sauerkraut. So
Okay.
I mean, kimchi is basically the same as sauerkraut, except Korean style with different seasoning. It's pickled cabbage. So yeah. And then
Okay.
this is red beet and cabbage kraut. So just a different variation. You just need to make sure and look at the labels and see if it says fermented on it.
Mm-hmm. Valerie says pickly.
It's
So
got
did you
butter in it.
Yeah. Did you find that beet one at Whole Foods too?
Yeah. Yep. These 2 I found at Whole Foods yesterday, and the sauerkraut I just found at Kroger. So
Okay. All right. I gotta get some ordered. But I was like, what should you like? I wasn't sure what to look for. And when I was doing it, I was trying to put everything in really fast. So I saw all the jars and stuff, but I wasn't sure. Like, I was like, I'm gonna hold off because I want to see. I probably need to dig into that a little bit more. So I like that. Because I like beets. And I actually don't mind sauerkraut, if I'm being honest.
right. No, really good sauerkraut, speaking from someone who's been in Germany,
Yeah.
is delicious. So and I could actually just eat it by itself. So, and the bag that I got was actually really good. I wonder if it's on top here. It's just, and it's actually just the Kroger brand. It just says from sauerkraut.
Okay.
So, but gluten-free and barrel cured, non-GMO.
Perfect. Okay. So for my blueberries, I basically put my blueberries in a jar, cleaned, and it says a 32 ounce clean jar. Says it should approximately fill it 3/4. I think I'm a little short here. So I have, I thought my paint was big enough and they shorted me a blueberry. This is the only problem with ordering online. So we're just gonna adjust the water a little bit. And so then basically what we're gonna do is put in a medium bowl, 2 cups of water and salt, which is 2 tablespoons of sea salt or Himalayan salt. And then we're gonna stir that until it dissolves, and then I'm gonna pour it over the blueberries. And the amount should cover the blueberries by approximately 1 inch and almost fill the jar. So I wanna make sure I have my blueberries covered, because as I was reading through the recipe notes, you wanna make sure that they're completely submerged in the water.
And side note about these blueberries, so this is something you have to plan way ahead of time, because you have to sit for a week before you use them. So it takes a week to ferment them. And does it say? Let's see. It just says set jar aside 7 days to ferment. So I think you just leave them on your counter.
Yeah.
Because I know that like when people make kombucha or things like that that are also fermented, it's better to set them like in a warm place. So
it says they should be pleasantly sour, is how it says they should be. But I did see that you can add them to like your shake. Where else? Maybe where else did I see that? But like I thought about adding them to my oatmeal.
yeah. Mhm. Well, that's why, I mean, where I got this recipe was I printed off the Gut Protocol blueberry banana overnight oats. And it automatically printed on the back the fermented blueberries recipe.
Oh,
You're
so
supposed
they add those blueberries to that
to
overnight oats.
use the fermented blueberries in this overnight oats recipe.
Okay, I was gonna do the overnight oats for tonight.
Do you want to cross?
What? Someone have a question? Okay. All right.
Okay. And add in my water.
I'm gonna pour my water into. Yep.
Okay. I'm gonna let my dog in 1 second.
My salt was not quite dissolved. And this was the trick that they tell you to fill like a Ziploc with like half a cup of water. And then, here, let me do it real quick and I'll show you. And you set it on top of your blueberries.
Sorry. That's okay. Did you say your salt didn't dissolve very well?
Yeah,
Yeah, mine neither.
warm water, salt dissolves better in warm water. But you put this on top of your blueberries. I'm gonna have to pour a little bit out, I think, so that it will hold the blueberries down so they stay submerged.
Yeah.
So, meal prepping questions. I know lots of you have had stress about meal prepping and planning. So what questions for those of you on live, we'd love to hear, like if you've already done your planning, what is it that seems to be the hardest for you to wrap your mind around right now? And maybe we can talk through some of that.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you have like 30 different vegetables in your fridge right now, or are you just planning to kind of hit the store a couple of times this week? Or how are you managing that?
that is a good question. I mean, I have a bunch of different vegetables. I tend to overbuy and then things go bad. So I tried not to do that this time. So I just thought, well, I will buy some and see how I am 3 days in, and then I might have to go to the store again to get a few more things. I bought a bag of collard greens because I'd never made collard greens. And I thought, well, hey, there's a new vegetable to try. So I bought this big chopped up bag of collard greens. It was a pound, it said, and I just followed the directions on the back. And I thought, oh, I'll probably have, this looks like enough for at least 2 different meals. So I cooked it up the way they said to do it. And then I measured it cooked, which maybe I should have measured it raw. This is a good question that I need to research because it seemed like a lot and they weren't that amazing. So I probably won't buy those again. But I tried them. So I was proud of myself. And Joel had the same reaction. He was like, these are kind of gross. So,
Well,
Yeah,
and
unfortunately, they're better with bacon and
yeah, and
you know, all the
butter.
things that collard greens were, usually.
Yeah,
cooked with.
they're a Southern recipe, right? So you add bacon and butter and all those delicious things. But I just did salt and sauteed them in a little, I boiled them, like blanched them for 3 minutes, then sauteed them with olive oil and salt and garlic. And like I said, they were okay, but I don't think I'll make them again.
yeah, I had collard greens once when last spring break when we went down, because I'm like, well, I should probably try them down here. I did not like them at all, but I like give you huge kudos, Shireen, for trying them, because maybe you find that you might like something. So I'm kind of with Shireen. I did the same thing, but I made sure that I had enough in here, and it was things that I didn't think about using before. Like I never counted onions as a vegetable because I always just use it for flavoring. So I bought a couple of red onions so I could chop up and put in with like squash and zucchini, and like I could make a big thing of that. I also tried, and the first week you don't do salads because she wants you to try some different things out. So this week I did get, I got jicama because if you've ever done the Ultimate Reset, there's an avocado jicama salad. I actually love it. Although I got to figure out how I'm going to adjust it because you do use some maple syrup in it, and you've got to watch your maple syrup and honey amounts. And I bought eggplant. So that was something new that I bought, and I've had it once before and I really liked it. So now I just got to figure out how to cook it better. And then I got Brussels sprouts, which I do like Brussels sprouts. I just don't do them very often because I'm the only one who eats them. So I bought 3 new ones. And what I tend to find is that if I buy them in smaller quantities, I'll go through them. If I buy them in large quantities, we end up throwing a ton of stuff out, just like Shireen said. So I'm kind of going that direction. But I will be honest, the thought of hitting 30 vegetables did cross my mind. Like, that's a lot. That's a lot. So
yeah, so you got to clarify, it's not vegetables, it's plants.
yes.
And someone pointed out this morning in one of our threads that is basically everything except your red A. So all the other containers are a form of plant and count towards your 30 plants.
Oh,
So just keep that in mind. If you're stressing about, I'll never get 30 different plants in. I counted this, so far today, I've already had 9 or 10 different plants. Now, some of those I'll repeat, during the week. So I'll have them for another meal. So I can't count them as my 30, but, just keep that in mind as you're planning things out. So
like your fruit is a plant?
Yeah, your fruit is a plant, your oats, the grains that you're,
Right.
Oh, well, that makes it easier.
all of the seeds, all of those things are plants.
Yeah, that's a great question.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I was gonna say, any other questions? Well, you guys are kind of thinking any questions you might have. I will say that one question Shireen and I get asked a lot, and we were like, okay, we just need to kind of come clean about it, is I get asked a lot, like, do you meal plan and prep every week? And we're gonna just be honest with you. We're gonna call a spade, and I'm gonna tell you that I don't. And that is probably where my week goes awry from the beginning. I feel like you get to a point where you're like, I feel like I've got a good handle on this and I can create meals out of the blue, which might be fairly accurate. But I think you start to lose track of, if you're not tracking your containers or you're not using it to portion, it's very easy to get your portions a little bit bigger than maybe where they're supposed to be, or maybe you add in that extra yellow because you forgot about one. And when you're on a fly, it's also very easy to get off track with where you need to be at. So that's one thing I just kind of want to say, like, just keep that in mind. When I am on track with my nutrition, it's when I'm meal planning. So one thing that I did back in the day, and I actually was telling Shireen earlier today, I got to find the folder, was I think it was like last year, and maybe even like more during COVID. I made, no, it must not have been COVID because it was when we were pretty active still. So maybe might have been last year. I feel like the years are all running together with what's happening the last couple of years. But I made meal plans on just like a sheet of paper, and I printed out my dinner recipes. So I had on there the breakfast, my lunches, my snacks, and then dinners. And then I stapled the dinner recipes on it. So basically what I would do is, and I made like, I want to say like 8 different meal plans for the week. And so I would just rotate through them and pull them out. And yeah, there were some that were family favorites that we reused, but then there was ones that we tried new. And if the family didn't like it, I pulled it out. So, but it was so nice because that summer when we're running around getting kids all over, my husband could start dinner at any time. I knew exactly what we needed from the grocery store, and I knew exactly what we were having. And so it was easy for me to just go with that. And then it was super easy to do any meal planning or prepping that week. I feel like there's a couple things that I know I need to get done, like my vegetables need to be cut and washed. My fruit needs to be cut and washed. I need to have an idea of what's for breakfast because we're on the go, like, and we're running out the door. So like the things like Shireen talks about having her breakfast ready to go, like those oats, that's a huge time saver. So when you kind of have an idea like that, it's really easy to do it. And we were talking like the last time we've actually done consistent meal planning was almost during 80-day obsession when we were doing time nutrition, because you had to be on top of everything. So this last 21-day boot camp that we did, I was very much on track with my tracking, and that made a huge difference with my results than when I don't do it at all.
Yeah. And so I mean, amen to everything Lauren said, especially the part about not ever wanting to sit down and actually plan it out, because I like to kind of wing it. So I sat down yesterday for a couple hours and just really, I wanted to really like go over the food list several times. So I have them in my head. So when I say, okay, for this for lunch, I need, I want a red bee. What can I use that's on that list? And, it took a little practice, but I felt like by the time I was working on Thursday, I only made it to 4 days and 2 hours, but I was getting faster. And so, and I'm going to share one more tip that I also learned. But just the whole idea, you need to familiarize yourself as much as possible with the food lists, and just knowing different combinations of containers is going to come easier to you. So you're going to get faster. This week will be harder, but I think you're going to get a lot better, a lot quicker. So just allow yourself some time to be a little bit of a beginner. Use the meal plans that Autumn gives in the resources just as even a bare bones. If you don't like what she recommends, say, okay, well, what could I create that has the same containers? Mm-hmm. Use that and look at the list and say, all right, well, I, need this one, this one, this one. So like today, for our snack, I was like, okay, sometime today I'm going to need a blue and an orange. And then I noticed that cashew milk yogurt was a blue. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. Plus it's also a prebiotic, or is it?
Mhm.
Yeah. Or is it a fermented food too? I can't remember. Anyway, so I had that, and then I love chia seeds. I love chia seed yogurt. And so, I mean, that's one of the things that I'm going to miss is my Greek yogurt, because I have that almost every day. So I'm like, oh, well, I'm just going to make chia pudding out of my cashew milk yogurt and my chia seeds. So I, measured out a blue container of the yogurt and an orange container of the chia. And then I added some coconut milk. You can use almond milk, whatever. And just, mixed it up. It thickens up a whole bunch, the chia seeds. So you'll want to get it to a thinner consistency and then just let it sit. And then you can add fruit to it if, you have, that's where you want to put your fruit. But anyway, just little things like that. You're like, oh, well, what are these combinations? And pretty soon you're going to have some that you can just sort of rattle off.
Mhm. Yeah, I think just knowing your food list, like I've printed my food lists out. They're
Yeah.
up on my computer upstairs right now. Because I just want to finish up my meal plan I need to have an idea of what I'm taking for lunches for school, because in the
Right.
morning it's super quick for me to be packing lunches. So I had good ideas on what I did a lot of those bento boxes. That was kind of like my go-to for the week, but now I need to adjust it. So it's just important, like the more you study them and the more you get familiar with them, the quicker it's going to be. Just like how Portion Fix was for us in the beginning, or the
Yeah.
first time you started it, seemed a little bit like it was a foreign language. I think this is going to be the same way. Once we get used to it, it's going to be so much better. And then we'll be able to start to see like what we can do to, I'm very curious how many of us will actually be sticking to something like this red A, red B, yellow A, yellow B for life.
And matching like that. Yeah.
Mhm.
Another tip that I remember Autumn doing from Time Nutrition is maybe you'd like to make a recipe for dinner, like chicken piccata is one of those recipes she has in her
Mhm.
suggested menu. And so I was like, oh, that sounds delicious. So that's on my list. But it's
Mhm.
like, if you have a recipe that kind of has a combination of different containers, plug that in first, and then you'll be able to figure out what containers you have left to distribute through the other meals.
Yeah.
If there is a fixate recipe that's Gut Protocol approved that you think you or your family or whatever would love, you can do it that way. But also just kind of mixing and matching containers is fine. I mean, with our chia pudding today, we had a container of edamame.
Yeah, definitely eat stuff that you didn't necessarily think that you'd ever eat. But like when you know you're eating the right foods, it makes a difference.
Yeah.
And if recipes overwhelm you, like they did for me when I was doing Time Nutrition, they really overwhelmed me. I just stuck to the basics, like chicken, a veggie, a starch. Like it was just something simple for me to just until I got my head wrapped around it. If recipes throw you off and you're like, I don't know how to mix or whatever, and because it did for me, I went with the basic, like red, green, yellow. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So just know which yellow you're going to do with
Yeah.
it. You can make a meal simply that way.
Yep. That's basically my approach too. So,
Mhm.
yeah. I mean, one of the recipes I have on my menu plan this week is egg roll in a bowl. That's, I could even use the fixate sausage, which, by the way, I was going to demonstrate, but then I forgot to take the sauce or the ground turkey out of the freezer. So I got to wait for it to thaw. So, but it's super easy to do. All you do is mix the meat and some spices and cook it up. And then you have it in your fridge to use however you want. So you can use that with some shredded coleslaw, prepackaged coleslaw, and a tiny bit of sesame oil. Just like really, you just need a few drops because it's such a strong flavor. and some brown rice, and then you can sprinkle some Bragg's liquid amino over it, and there you have 3 different containers.
Mhm.
So super easy and quick.
When you do that recipe, I meant to ask you this 2 weeks ago. You just use coleslaw mix from like the salad section.
Yep.
Okay.
You can shred your own cabbage too. So
No.
yeah, it's time consuming, right?
No.
I think we still
Okay.
have some cabbage left from St. Patrick's Day in there. So okay,
Yeah.
I'll shred that up and use that this week. So
Yeah, no, that's good thinking. That's good. But in general, no. I am a easy, whatever I can do to make things easier. But yes, I actually probably need to ask for some of those pieces, like for my Mother's Day gift or like birthday, just some better kitchen utensils, because I don't have anything good like that. You'd think after all these years of coaching, I would do it, but
Yeah.
I'll figure it out. Chop, chop, chop.
right.
But
All right. Any other questions? Has that been helpful for you guys? Okay, I'll take that as a yes.
Yes. Yes, thank you. I was trying to
Awesome.
find the mute button.
Right. All right, great. Then yeah, we'll probably do this again in a couple of weeks
Mhm.
and see how, once we're a couple of weeks into this, and see what other experiments we can try. So
Yeah. Yeah. Perfect. All right. All right. Well, you guys have an amazing week. And